Story 1. For some context, about 24 years ago, I was sexually assaulted by a close friend of mine and got pregnant by the encounter. I was inconsolable for months after the event. To make matters worse, I found out I was pregnant at about 20 weeks, and where I lived at the time, it was illegal to get an abortion after the first trimester. My husband had really been my rock and my support during that time, and I do not know how I would have ended up if not for him. He said that I could put it up for adoption or I could keep the child, and he would raise it like our other children. I decided to not give it up for adoption, but raising the kid was hard. I am half Polish and half German, and he is half German and half Russian. We both have pale skin, light hair and blue eyes, as well as being fairly tall. I'm about 178 cm or around 5'10", and he is 191 cm or about 6'3". However, our daughter Luna is about 160 cm or 5'3", has dark hair and a brown complexion like her biological father. I often heard snide remarks about me being an unfaithful wife because it was obvious that she was not my husband's child. It was especially hard for me when Luna was young because she looked so much like her dad. My husband took care of my daughter most of the time since I had bad flashbacks whenever I saw her face from when I was assaulted. As she grew up, it died down a bit, but I would still get these horrible panic attacks when I saw her wearing boys' clothes and short hair. Since I was prone to having panic attacks, Luna ended up being closer to my husband than she was to me. Also, she often ended up getting a little more than her siblings from my husband as some sort of compensation because of me. We never told her that she was the product of sexual assault because I was too ashamed and my husband did not want her feeling different from her siblings. I often told her that me and her biological father got into an altercation and never spoke to one another ever again. About 2 years ago, she got one of those DNA test items and found out she had a relative in the system. Said relative got Luna in touch with her bio dad, and they started talking despite my protests. He apparently wanted to speak to me about something he wanted to tell me, so Luna attempted to persuade me to speak with him. I made her aware that me and her father should never be in the same room together. Now, Luna is getting married to a lovely young man. Some of the COVID restrictions have been lifted, so she is able to have a decent-sized wedding. The original plan was to have my husband walk her down the aisle, but he had gotten into a bad accident, leaving him in a wheelchair until his legs are strong enough to support his weight again. However, this is not her idea of a picture-perfect wedding day, so she invited her biological father to have the honor of being the bride's father. Her wedding invitation not only invited my rapist, but she totally disrespected the man who raised her. Although I or a bridesmaid could have pushed him down the aisle, she thinks it would not fit the vibe of the wedding. My husband looked so shocked and upset that she would even think of this, but I was furious. I have a visceral hate for that man, and I let her know that I would not be anywhere near him. She told me that this is what she wants, and there's no changing her mind, so I told her I will not be attending if he's there. She got upset and told me that I shouldn't hang on to the past, but I laid it out to her that she doesn't know what happened between me and her biological father, so she shouldn't stick her nose where it doesn't belong. Though I feel terrible about what I said and how I said it, and I can't be blamed for her being born or not knowing what happened since I never told her, I still feel as though my wishes should be respected if I say I don't want to be in the same room as someone. I'm now okay with her contacting her father. I just do not want anything to do with him. Also, it's rude to replace your father with another man who you've barely known for 2 years because of something he couldn't control. Can anyone offer me a perspective that I am not catching? Has anyone ever dealt with this, and if so, how? Update. Before I get started on the update, I have a few things I want to address. A lot of people have questioned me on why I did not tell my daughter that she was a product of sexual assault. The only answer is that I was ashamed of myself. For some context, before I got married to my husband, I actually was very close friends with my attacker. We grew up together in a small community, and our families were close. Our parents even wanted us to get together. He was always interested in me, but I didn't give him a chance until university. I broke it off with him and started dating my husband, but I never cut him off because we were very close. He invited me over to drink. This was normal for us, and when I started getting a bit tipsy, he repaid me. I was very traumatized by the situation and tried to get him jailed, but I couldn't. He had a very good reputation, so everyone believed him. Even my own mother, when he said I willingly came over and did it with him. I eventually stopped pursuing it because of the social pressure, which only got worse when I found out I was pregnant. I eventually left that place with my husband and kids to live somewhere else. After I gave birth, my husband suggested therapy, but I was scared of being judged again, so I decided to bury it and try to forget about it. I just realized now that it was the worst way to go about this, but it's the only way I knew how to honestly. On to the update. After reading all the advice I'd gotten, I decided that I should stop running away and tell her everything. I called her to come over and she did. I first apologized for yelling at her for her suggestion because in her mind, it was an innocent suggestion. I told her that I wasn't angry at her, but how fast she was willing to replace her father because he was in a wheelchair, and that anger was compounded because she brought up her genetic father. I apologize again for acting childish and not like an adult. She asked me why I am so against her genetic father being in the same vicinity as I am, and I just told her everything from our initial friendship to her forced conception. She didn't believe me, like some Redditors predicted, but I can get a copy of the records of the court case and offer them to her if she needs a look. She looked stunned, like she wanted to believe me but couldn't. I apologized for keeping all this from her because I didn't know how to bring it up. She told me she didn't believe me and would confirm with her genetic father, so I told her to take the time she needed to process all this. Later that day, she came again, crying and apologizing for not believing me. I held her and cried and apologized too. It was kind of therapeutic. We had a long chat and I did feel closer to her. When we were done, she said she wanted to take me out to a surprise to help me feel better in a couple of days, which I happily agreed to. I went to see her yesterday in this little restaurant with a patio that had a private pay-for-use area for a maximum of 4 people, due to COVID. As she ran up to me and gave me a hug, she led me to the patio, where her biological father stood. She told me he was here to apologize and start my healing journey. I just wanted to leave, but he grabbed my hand and all those memories I tried to repress just came back out. I started having a panic attack and lost balance, to which he tried to help me keep my balance, which worsened everything. I honestly don't remember how I left, but I ended up in my car just sobbing. I called my elder son to pick me up because I was not fit to drive at that moment. Today, my daughter called me upset that I ruined her surprise, but I was extremely upset with her. I asked her why she did that when she knew everything that happened between me and him, and she tried to use the excuse of my healing journey, but I wasn't having it. She admitted that she wanted me to get used to him because he's going to be walking her down the aisle along with my husband and doing the daddy-daughter dance. I told her that while I loved her and respected her decision to be with him, I am not willing to be anywhere he is. She started complaining about how she wants all her family to be there, and I'm still not forgiving, but I hung up the phone. My husband is aware of everything and stands by me about not going to her wedding, but I don't want this. If my other children were to know, they would stand by me and tell the rest of their extended family, which is going to lead to my daughter getting disowned by the family. There is no need to give me advice on this because I will be seeking professional aid. Anyways, one good thing to come out of this is that I'm finally confident enough to seek therapy. Thank you for listening to my venting and for commenting on my last post. Happy holidays. I hope you enjoy it with those who you love. Update. Hello everyone. It has been a while since I last posted on this website. I have a few new updates for everyone that has been asking me. I apologize for not getting to everyone in my direct messages, but I really appreciate everyone sending me support through those tough times. I would like to share some good news before going on about what happened with my daughter. My husband is able to walk again, albeit with a cane, but it is progress. We have been going to physical therapy to help strengthen his legs after his accident. It's good to see him happy and walking again. I've also been to therapy and met this wonderful and sweet therapist. My therapist is so patient and kind. Since my husband and I started together a few weeks ago, she has been extremely helpful. Bless her soul and all those who recommended therapy. I would have missed out on such an experience, so my thanks go out to all of you. Like most of you advised, my therapist also advised me to tell my other children about what went on between my youngest. For reference, I have 3 other children, 30 male, 27 female, 27 male. My eldest boy is the only one that had a slight idea of what happened, but the other 2 were left unaware. I was quite scared and anxious to tell them what happened, especially because my mother and other family members initially reacted negatively. I invited them over around 2 weeks ago for a family dinner and told them everything that happened with the conception of my youngest to what happened recently. They were all silent and stared at me, so I became a little nervous until my daughter started crying.
It was so upsetting for her, and my 2 sons were pissed off at my youngest and her father. They asked why I didn't tell them earlier, and I told them I was just scared of how they would have reacted. My husband took them out of the dining room to talk while my eldest daughter just cried together.
When my boys and husband came back, they apologized for leaving early and left. My eldest daughter wanted to spend the night with me, but early in the morning, she left with her brothers to do whatever. I didn't hear anything from them until last Wednesday. I was on Facebook when I saw my elder daughter's post calling out my younger daughter for not only ignoring the man who raised her, but siding with her mothers are pissed and re-traumatize her. My boys made similar posts as well, dragging her name through the mud. I had so many direct messages, but I didn't want anything to do with them, so I deleted the app off my phone. Since I don't like people knowing about my personal life, I asked my kids to take down the post. They said they did, but I haven't re-downloaded the app to find out. My youngest would-have-been husband came to my house with his mother to apologize. He told me he broke off the engagement because he couldn't be with someone who treated their parents like that. His mother let me know how disgusted she was with my daughter's actions, and someone like that would never be a part of her family. I was honestly stunned by all the support I have received. It's one thing to receive support online, but receiving support in real life was surreal for me. I am a bit disappointed because I wanted my daughter's former fiancé to join the family as he is a lovely and sweet boy, but he has boundaries in a relationship that my daughter unfortunately crossed. As for my youngest, she is furious with me. She sent me a nasty voicemail saying that I ruined her life. Her friends and fiancé basically cut her off. Needless to say, I felt terribly sorry because I had attempted to avoid this situation at all costs. I went through what she is experiencing, and I know exactly what it feels like. I told my therapist about this, and she told me that the difference is that while I was the victim, my daughter brought it on herself. My therapist is probably right, but I can't stop this feeling of dread. I tried to call my daughter, but once I heard her father on the line, I hung up. He took it upon himself to let me know that my daughter is depressed because of my actions. I feel terrible for treating my daughter like this. My husband says that I should focus on myself, and I'm trying to, but I just can't stop worrying. I don't think that my daughter is safe when she's with her biological father. This is all that's going on in my life right now, for all those asking. Thanks for listening to me, and thanks for the advice again. I really appreciate everything. Story 2. Husband accused his wife for cheating and demanded a paternity test after reading too many paternity fraud stories online. I met my wife through a mutual friend. We were friends for a year or so before we both became single and decided we were compatible enough to date. We were together 2 years before we got married. I do not know what got into me. My wife is loyal, faithful, but I had been reading statistics about how many men are raising children that aren't their own, and had absolutely no idea around the time she found out she was pregnant. We both wanted children, we weren't actively preventing it. About 3 months in, I couldn't take it anymore and told her I wanted a paternity test. She asked me if I was accusing her of cheating. I said yes. She asked me why, and I couldn't answer her. Neither of us has ever cheated or been cheated on. She works very hard, long hours at her job, but has always let me know where she is / who she will be with. If she was going somewhere with friends, I was always welcomed. I do not know why I did this, and it's tearing me up. She told me she'd gladly give me my paternity test, but that she was moving back to her mother's until that time because she didn't know if she wanted to continue the marriage. She got an amniocentesis test at about 20 weeks. I'm the father, and when she told me, I was so happy. But she wasn't. She told me that she felt like she fell out of love with me the minute I asked her, and that she had no desire to reconcile. Our daughter was born July 10th. My wife has gone through a lawyer and has started through the motions of divorce and issues of custody. She has since gotten her own apartment. She said she wants to keep this as amicable as possible for the sake of our daughter. But I just want to be a family. She doesn't want support or alimony because she makes more than enough to cover herself and our daughter's needs and live a comfortable life. It's taken since February to even get her to soften her stance and even think about counseling. She said she loves me, but she isn't sure she can get over this. Now I'm trying to think of how to fix this, and I'm just such a broken mess. I want to prepare a list to talk about on Monday at counseling, but I just can't think of anything but apologizing, and that hasn't made a difference in the past months. I don't think it would now. TL doctor didn't suspect my wife of infidelity, but paranoia made me ask for a paternity test. After months of separation, she's agreed to counseling. What can I do to fix this? Update 1. I got to sit down with my wife during my visit with my daughter while she was napping. She says that this was the straw that broke the camel's back. Here is why she went nuclear, as a lot of people said. As much as this hurt, I needed to hear it. I had trouble trusting her our whole relationship, despite the fact she had never cheated on me or any exes. She's caught me snooping through her phone/email/work laptop before, and because she deals with privileged information, she says I open her up to liabilities with her clients. No, I have never found anything incriminating. She has never hidden anything except work-related things because of confidentiality. Her bank accounts, credit card information, phone records were always open to me because she's caught me snooping before, and she wanted to assuage my fears. I had recently installed Tinder on my phone, and she had caught me on Occupid 6 months ago. Her best friend sent her my profile, so she thinks that this is me projecting. She got upset about the hypocriticalness of it all, while she had to be fully open to me, but she says I never showed her the same courtesy and always bitched at her about my privacy. I had my phone passcode. I would get upset if she did the same, and I'd get angry with her if she went into my computer/email for any reason, even if it was bill-related. She said what really made her not want to work on it was some of the following. She felt no support from me at all before the test. She would come over every other day and talk to me, but I was cold to her and she tried to work on it in the beginning. She said my aloofness made her not care. I refused to help her cover the copay for the amniocentesis. She said this was pettiness that made her feel this way, but she was going to get an amniocentesis test anyway because she's paranoid about birth defects and her insurance didn't deem it medically necessary. I went on a few dates after she moved out and she found out. She considered it cheating because she had been attempting to work on our marriage at that point and had even made counseling appointments that I refused to attend until she got the paternity test. I didn't remember about this and didn't include it in my last post. She said she's willing to work on the marriage, but she said that it has to be as open both ways and she isn't willing to move back in with me right away. I have to give her the passcode to my phone and delete Tinder. I do not want to give her the passcode to my phone because I think I deserve my privacy. Her other condition is personal therapy as well as the couple's counseling. I don't want to do this either because, as many of you have pointed out, there's nothing wrong with wanting to be sure. Update 2. I realize now that I'm not exactly someone you want to sympathize with, and I'm sorry.
I do love Marissa and want to be a better husband and father, but I will not get that chance. In therapy, our therapist had us lay everything out on the table, and I admitted that I was an unfair hypocrite.
She admitted that she's happier without me. Despite being a single mother for all intents and purposes, we attempted to talk it through, with her laying out her terms to re-enter the marriage. I still feel I did not cheat on her because she left me with no discussion of terms. She feels I cheated because we were still married and actively discussing her eventually rebuilding her trust in me and moving back home. We agreed to try another therapy session, but Tuesday morning she canceled it and she filed for divorce. We had dinner that night. She told me she was sorry, but she didn't think it would work because her trust at this point was irrevocably broken. I told her it was okay. We sat down and talked about visitation until she leaves in January, when she will be moving to her home state with an opportunity that grants her more money and better benefits, including on-site daycare. She told me she harbors no hard feelings towards me, but she wishes it hadn't ended this way. I told her it didn't have to, but she disagreed and said it did. I told her I'd give her access to my phone and such, but the fact that I did that to her left a sour taste in her mouth about it, and she doesn't want a relationship where it's considered normal to not share/rifle through the other person's things for no reason, as she put it. We agreed on child support, and we will get it in writing. I make a comparable amount to what she will be making, so we agreed to split baby's expenses. Baby will be on her insurance. I gave her a check for the amount for the amino. Anything else we can think of? I know there's no chance of getting my wife back now, but how can I be a good dad to baby long distance? We talked about me eventually moving to be in proximity. She made sure to emphasize to the baby that we will not be getting back together, but I'm locked into a contract until next December at least. If you've made it to this point, you're a beast.